I'm triggered. I've been triggered. I've been triggered by TikTok logic.
Since I moved to Sweden, I've been hearing Africa poor, Africa poor, Africa poor. How is it that a nation that lives under credit is calling Africa poor?
What?
The math wasn't mathing in this one, I can't lie. Welcome if you're new to my channel, and welcome back if you've already joined me before. So my name is Felicia. Just a bit about me. I'm an economist by profession, but also a multifaceted babe. I'm new on this YouTube thing. I'm seeing what works for me, and I'm just using this channel as an outlet to share my opinions and just be creative. Anyways, back to why I'm triggered. So the other day, this TikTok went viral. What had happened was there was this woman, I think she was Ugandan, who was talking about how people in Sweden look down on Africans, like Africa poor this, Africa poor that. And there are so many other arguments she could have used to rebut that, but she chose to flex by saying,
well, at least Africans can afford iPhones and it's their own and they don't borrow on credit.
Yeah, well, let's just listen to the clip and you'll see where I'm coming from. Let's get this started.
Since I moved to Sweden, I've been hearing Africa poor, Africa poor, Africa poor. How is it that a nation that lives under credit is calling Africa poor? Don't bash me, I'm gonna give you an example, okay? In Uganda, if you see someone walking around with an iPhone 12, they paid cash for it. If you see someone having a house, they built it cash. If you see someone driving a car, it's cash. Because in the world where I come from, if you don't have the money, then you can't buy. We don't have credit. Take example, Sweden. I can go to a shop, get an iPhone 12, credit. House, credit. Car, credit. Everything is credit. Even underwear, you can get it on credit. So technically, if you lose your job, you lose everything and you can go to the streets, okay? In Uganda, if you lose your job, you get to keep everything. You'll just worry, where am I gonna get money for school fees? Then it came to me like, how the hell the people who live in credit call people who pay cash poor?
Right, so that was essentially the clip, the audio, and there were a number of issues I had with it. Let's break this down. First of all, the average African can't afford an iPhone. Using the 1% of Africans that can afford these things, you know, the rich Africans, as a rebuttal to, oh, Africans are poor, African poor, this is just very wayward. Do you know what I mean? It's like saying, oh,
all these poor people around me, but you know, that one guy can afford an iPhone. He used his money to buy it, therefore Africans aren't poor. At least we own our
I think we need to be careful when we support this narrative, because I was seeing a lot of,
yeah, speak the truth. Oh my god, yes.
and I just thought, wait, guys, come on. This is not the line we need to be going down. This is not the correct argument to fight this battle. First of all, no disrespect to sis. The passion, I get it, I hear it. Europeans look down on Africans a lot of the time. They call us poor, they call us all these other names, and you know, they perpetuate these systems which just leave us trapped in poverty. But this pursuit for the approval of Europeans and trying to justify why Africans aren't poor is wrong. The average African, especially those who are living in poverty or just about surviving, cannot afford to buy an iPhone or build a big blown house. So comparing that 1% of Africans that can to people of countries who can afford to do this or are living like this is just a bit, you know, a little bit far-fetched for me. Just looking at it from like an economics point of view, if we're looking at GDP per capita of, let's say, a sub-Saharan African, that's actually around $1,600. Comparing that to Sweden, it's $51,600, which is about 30 times more or so higher than the sub-Saharan African GDP per capita. And by all means, GDP is not a comprehensive understanding of how economies work. I'm just picking GDP per capita because it gives us a good indication of the situation, basically. Yeah. And if we're taking it a notch further and doing a like-for-like comparison between Uganda and Sweden, Uganda's GDP per capita as it stands from information from the World Bank is around, well, $800. So yeah, my point is there's nothing wrong with admitting that there are some poor Africans and there are Africans living in poverty. And in fact, pretending as if there aren't Africans who are living in poverty is doing a disservice to the Africans that are, because we're kind of ignoring and marginalizing their issues just so we can show the Europeans,
Hey, oh my god, we've got some rich Africans too. Africa isn't poor.
like, come off it. Stop it. We need to channel our anger against the system and white supremacy and all of that in a different way, a way that makes sense. And what doesn't make sense to me was how sis was like, oh, if an African loses their job or something like that, at least they get to keep their home. But when you're in Sweden, you lose everything and you're on the street. Come on now, sis. I'm pretty sure that Sweden is one of the Nordic countries, and Nordic countries are actually well known for their social protection systems, for their safety nets. So in the event that a Swedish person loses their job, they will still be in a better position than the African who does lose their job, whether they have a house or can buy an iPhone or not, simply because they have better protections from the government. I fear for what this means in the wider context about how we view credit. Credit itself isn't necessarily a bad thing. It becomes a bad thing when it's mismanaged and there's people trying to take advantage of vulnerable people. The main advantage to using credit is that it increases your purchasing power. When you are using it in the right way, when you know your income is going to cover it or your income can cover it, you can plan ahead, you can do things. If you're setting up a business, you can pay that money back. Like, that's what credit is used for. That's how it should be used. When we think about the businessmen, the entrepreneurs, and, you know, the people that work for themselves, who many of you aspire to be, I'm pretty sure a lot of them had to use credit at some point, whether it's a loan or, you know, something for their business. Because when you're thinking of purchasing something and you have a bigger dream, you kind of need help along the way. In a dire situation, the government should be able to protect its people against serious risk and serious downfalls. That's essentially what the role of the government should be. Well, one of its many roles. However, we have a situation where many governments have been crippled in the African context, or they just leave it up to the private sector. And, you know, the private sector, you know, their motive is always profit. So, you know, things are going to go left. And then you get these greedy loan sharks and companies preying on very vulnerable people. And a lack of regulation in these markets creates and perpetuates systems that keep people trapped in a cycle of debt and poverty. In the most small amount of cases, you do get a situation where there are just generally people who have a lack of understanding of what credit is. There's been a miscommunication somewhere, and it leads to a bit of poor management. I mean, in the ideal world, everyone would have the money to live the lifestyle that they want without finances being an issue. But unfortunately, that's not the world that we live in. This is the current system that we live in. And therefore, things like credit do help to some extent when we don't have warped incentives messing that up, which is pretty much all the time. Yeah. Overall, Viral Tik Tok, I think sis raised some really important points about how people in European countries look down on Africans. But I think it all went downhill when she used that specific line of Africans own their thing, some Africans can afford outright. Like, no, that's not what we should be doing. That was it. I just want people to think more critically of these things, because TikTok University is not... let's just say it's not that robust. Not everything is something that you take and, like, seriously. You may agree or you may disagree with me, but if you do disagree with me and you have reasons why, feel free to drop in the comment. I always support having a dialogue or learning different new points, so I'm up for that conversation as well. And yeah, like I said earlier, I'm still new to this YouTube thing. I might post once and again my ramblings on issues and popular culture and things that I think are a bit with a critical eye. And if you enjoy content like this, let me know. Feel free to subscribe, like, comment, you know, all of that jazz. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye!